Hey friends, Ash here. Welcome back to Gent Sense. Hope that you're doing well. I purchased a lot of stuff, and especially here over the past couple of months, I have been just doing massive orders of things, trying to find like little hidden gems, things that fly under the radar. And I gotta be honest, when you do that, when you blind buy a bunch of stuff, a lot of it sucks. So I end up with a lot of fragrances that you'll never hear about because I buy them and they're just not worth mentioning. But today I'm gonna be sharing with you one of those fragrances that is worth mentioning. It's this one right here from Arabiyat Prestige, Lutfah, Light in the Heart. Kind of an interesting name, at least to me. Light in the Heart. Light in the Heart and you're too late. You give Lutfah a bad name. So this is one of the fragrances that I purchased in a recent massive haul of scents that I got in. And it's pretty freaking good. Now, of course, everybody knows about this one, right? Parfums Marly Altair, and everybody knows about the big clones of this fragrance, especially Liquid Brun, which was really the first big one that came out. This right here, I'm gonna tell you straight off the rip, is one of the best Altair alternatives out there, but it has a twist. And we're gonna get into that in a second. I'll let you know exactly how this smells side by side with Altair, because it's not the exact same. I'm gonna let you know how it differs, how it performs, all of that. Now, I bought mine from JOMASHOP. Yes, I actually bought it and I did use my code. It was like $34.99 before the code. And it is a slightly smaller bottle size. Also, this is a 2.7 ounce bottle. So it's 80 milliliters instead of your more typical 100. So there is that. But even with that smaller price that you pay, I think it's worth it. Let's go ahead and check out first the presentation. Then I'll start breaking this down and let you know how it smells. The box first. So here we have the box. Mine got kind of dirtied up in transit, as you can see on the front there. Or maybe it was dirtied up from the factory, I'm not sure. The box has kind of a rubbery feel to it. Feels nice in the hand, kind of that like matte rubber feel. You have on the front the name of the house. You have the name of the fragrance as well, and it's in that Altair color scheme. So you can pretty much tell right away what this is gonna be, even if you've never heard about it just by that. You have the name of the house on top of the box. On one side, you have Eau de Parfum, 80 ml, 2.7 ounces. On the other side, you have Light in the Heart, Scented Secrets. Oh boy, Scented Secrets. Top note, bergamot cinnamon. Heart note, LME Gaiac wood. Dry down note, Ambroxan vanilla. And of course, we all know the dry down note, yes. Kind of just a random little thing that they popped on the side there, but you know, it's cool, whatever. On the back, we've got the badge code, the barcode, you have the name of the house, you have the ingredients, just a whole bunch of information right there. Not tested on animals, it says. Quite nice. And then the box opens up like so. You have on the inside of the cover, the name of the house again, and then it'll cut out for your bottle to chill out in. And here is the bottle. On the front, you have the name of the house, name of the fragrance. You also have this like sticker, essentially, that's stuck on there. It looks like a plaque, but it really is just a sticker. You can kind of hear it too. You hear that? Ooh, it's trying to come undone. It's like the sweater song. You have a cap that clicks into place. The cap is kind of lightweight, actually. It looks like it's gonna be heavy, but it's not. Also, it looks a little sus. It's got a little nipple action, kind of. It's a little nipply. On the bottom, you've got a sticker and then your badge code. Let us do a couple of sprays. Here we go. Fan-freaking-tastic. Arabiyat Prestige comes with the best atomizers nowadays. Or they're one of the brands with some of the best atomizers. All right, let's blast on some Altair as well. Also good. Atomizer-wise. As I said, guys, I bought this one from JOMASHOP. I used my code, and here they are. If you want to use those codes, you can. And those JOMASHOP codes, they only work within the app. Yes, I know it's annoying because every time that I use the codes, I have to also use them in the app, but that is the way. Also have codes for a bunch of other stores, Gift Express, the Perfume Box, Fragflex, many more. So use those codes anytime you shop at those stores. Save yourself some money. All right, how does Light in the Heart smell in the opening compared to the PDM? Well, I'll tell you what, if you spray this one on and you don't spray it on the PDM side by side, you're going to immediately be reminded of Altair. You're gonna know right away that it's a clone. So when I say it's a twist, it's not that kind of twist where you're like trying to stretch your imagination figuring out how it is. No, it's readily apparent. And on tester strips, it's really, really close. But when you spray it on skin, that's where the little differences start to pop out. And that's really the most important thing because nobody sprays tester strips and wears that around as the fragrance. Or at least most people don't. I'm assuming somebody probably does. So Light in the Heart over here opens up with a little bit more freshness, just a touch of that citrus off the top, again, bergamot officially. And instead of immediately leaning into this almost like syrupy, rich sweetness, which is what Altair does, Light in the Heart takes a slightly different approach. It has a warm, almost toasted blend of cinnamon and vanilla that you pick up. Altair, you're gonna get more of that, like I said, syrupy sweetness. You're gonna get that orange blossom that comes through, that praline that comes through. Light in the Heart over here instead has a very light smokiness, like a creme brulee almost, like the toasted caramelized sugar on top of the creme brulee. So you have that sweetness, but it has that little hint of bite to it. You get that in here. So it just has this light caramelized, like amber kiss almost off the top when you spray this one on. And that little hint of, like I said, smokiness that comes through gives this one a slightly more grounded feeling when you first spray it on, instead of being just straight up like bashing you over the head with sweetness like Altair does. Now, that's not me saying Altair is bad. Don't take that the wrong way. This stuff is really, really good. I'm just saying the approach, a little bit different how Light in the Heart comes across. So it's like the same idea, but then with a slightly different vibe. Through the mid, that caramelized sugar, you know, that lightly burnt sugar kind of feeling carries through in Light in the Heart. And it just kind of rides right alongside that vanilla note that's in here. You also get a little woodiness that starts to come out in the mid, lays a nice base for everything else to play off of. In comparison, Altair through the mid has a little bit of a confectionery lean to it. You also have that cardamom that starts to pop through in Altair as well. So Altair has almost like a gourmand treat kind of aspect to it heading through the mid, when in comparison, Light in the Heart is more like evening indulgence. You could maybe view it as a little bit more mellow than Altair, a little bit more reined in, not in terms of performance, just in terms of like how much it's really pushing the upper edge of the sweet notes. Because Altair to me has a little bit more of that top heavy sweetness. You know, it's not down here like really dense and super heavy. It's got like this little zing to it. Light in the Heart is slightly more refined to an extent, while still doing a lot of the same things. And once you hit the full dry down, these two do come together a little bit more. They're not the exact same, they still do have differences, but they do get closer. That smooth vanilla, the warm ambery base, that woodiness underneath, both of these really share a lot of those aspects in the dry down in a lot of similar ways. But Light in the Heart still holds on to that slightly deeper feeling. A nice resinous sort of sweetness. That ambery warmth actually starts to envelop it a little bit more as it dries down. And that's really gonna help give it its own character in comparison to Altair directly side by side. A little bit more mature, a little bit less candied, and you could almost think of Light in the Heart as, yes, being an Altair clone first and foremost, but it's also to an extent like a combination or a hybrid clone. It has aspects of something like Grand Soir by Maison Francis Kurkdjian as it dries down further, and that amber starts to come out a little bit more. And where that sweetness is a little bit deeper, a little bit richer for me in Light in the Heart, it's going to evoke memories of that fragrance by MFK. So it's Altair in the opening with a little twist, and also mainly through the mid, but once you start to head into the dry down, it starts to become this sort of hybrid dry down, where it's a little bit of the MFK, a little bit of that PDM, and it gives you something that is going to scratch the itch mainly for Altair, but a little bit of the MFK all in one fragrance. And that's really what sets this one apart, because instead of just trying to be a straight up one-to-one, it's giving you something a little different. You're gonna use it the same times as Altair, fall, winter, for me, daytime or evening, either one, but yeah, you're gonna use it pretty much the same times, same places, but the fragrance, the scent profile, it's familiar, but different, if that makes any sense at all. So it's one of those things where you smell it and you're like, ah, yes, Altair. Then as it dries down, you're like, oh, Altair with some Grand Soir added in. It's giving me the vibe of both of these things, just in its own package. And I would say in a direct comparison to Altair, for what it's worth, it has a little more of a classiness to it. Not that Altair is a fragrance that you couldn't wear in classy situations. You obviously could. It's just the way that the sweetness is handled here, as I've mentioned a few times now, makes it lean slightly more of a classy scent profile. Now, in terms of performance, I gotta say, when I first sprayed Light in the Heart on, side by side with Altair, I thought it's not as strong. It's not projecting the same. It's not commanding as much attention. You know, it's one of those ones where you have to lean in a little bit closer. But then in a couple follow-up wearings, again, side by side every single time, this one hung right with Altair. It wasn't noticeably weaker, it wasn't really noticeably stronger, it just wasn't noticeably weaker. Obviously the atomizer is a heck of a beast, so you can spray a lot of that stuff on if you want to, pretty easy. So performance-wise, I would say this one right on par with the PDM, but do understand that the first time you spray it on, if you're like me, you're gonna think, not quite as strong, but then just let it settle, let it develop, and then come back to it, and you'll see it's pretty much the same. So while it's really doubtful that Light in the Heart is gonna get a huge amount of hype or anything, because this is not Lutfah, you know, it's not Armaf, this isn't Fragrance World, this is a somewhat smaller clone house. This stuff right here easily hangs with any Altair alternative or dupe or whatever out there. At 35 bucks, the stuff lasts and it gives you the complement factor of an Altair filtered through the elegance of Maison Francis Kurkdjian's Grand Soir, especially once you get that dry down. It works beautifully. This stuff is great. So if you're thinking about picking something up that smells like this, but you want it with a little twist, you have to check this stuff out. So there we go. That is Arabiyat Prestige Lutfah Light in the Heart. Lutfah. Lutfah? Lutfah. I know that this right here has been cloned to death, but seriously, guys, that's worth knowing about. Thank you all for hanging with me. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you tomorrow with another fragrance video. See you guys.